Please welcome back Abderrahmane Sissako to the New York Film Festival. I'll begin with a question about the film's origins. Abderrahmane, I believe, was inspired. The idea for the film began with a story about a couple, an unmarried couple, who had two children and who were stoned to death. And this was reported in several papers. And so I'm wondering if you could just talk about how that led to the film.
Bonjour. Et je pense qu'un artiste a besoin d'un prétexte qui déclenche le fait de faire un film. Et ce prétexte déclencheur, évidemment, a été pour moi la lapidation de ce couple qui est un fait réel. Mais je pense qu'avant ça, le désir de faire ce film était là.
I think that an artist always needs a pretext to serve as a trigger for him to make the film. And I think that, for me, the starting point for this film was the stoning of the couple, which was something that did take place in reality. But the idea for the film had been brewing inside long before that.
Mais avant de commencer, je dois vous demander de l'indulgence, parce que j'ai jamais eu autant de gens devant moi.
And also, I have to ask for your indulgence because I've never had this many people in front of me before.
Voilà, des journalistes comme ça, donc.
Journalists like this, so.
Bon, c'est pas quelque chose de facile.
It's not an easy thing to do.
To go from the beginning of the film to the finished product, there's a statement that you made, Abderrahmane, when you were doing an interview earlier in the year, when you said that you had not wanted to make the fundamentalists into villains. You did not want to make a Manichaean film, and that you made a film in which, really what you were doing was showing what history has proven, which is that our neighbors one day might be our hangman the next day.
Oui, quand on fait un film comme ça qui est particulier parce que le monde est particulier aujourd'hui.
When you make a film like this, which is a very specific kind of film because there is a very specific situation existing in the world these days.
C'est un film qui est dans l'actualité.
It's a film that's based in reality.
Donc l'artiste doit réfléchir sur la forme.
So the artist really has to think about and consider the form.
Voilà, pour ne pas tomber dans une forme de facilité, mais aussi de légèreté.
Not to fall into a form because it's easy.
Et donc, un film doit aller au-delà du reportage, par exemple.
The film really has to go beyond what reporting is.
Et un article dira la musique est interdite.
For example, in an article you'll read, music is prohibited.
Mais un cinéaste ne fait pas comme ça.
But that's not what a filmmaker does.
Voilà, il va au-delà de ça pour montrer que dans une interdiction d'une musique comme ça, que la femme chantera toujours, par exemple.
And it's in a situation like this, the filmmaker has to go beyond just saying music is prohibited. You have to go beyond and show, for example, that the woman here still continues to sing.
Donc privilégier la résistance qu'il y a eu pendant cette occupation.
So you really want to focus and put the emphasis on the resistance that can exist in this type of situation.
Parce que la presse en Occident parle beaucoup plus souvent des otages qui sont pris, parce que les otages sont des citoyens occidentaux en général.
And I think oftentimes the Western press speaks a lot about the hostages that have been taken, primarily because many of the hostages are Westerners themselves.
Mais on ne parlera pas de cette femme qu'on oblige à porter des gants et qui a la capacité de se révolter. On ne parle pas de ces gens-là.
But they don't talk about women like the woman in the marketplace who's being forced to wear gloves and who refuses, and that's the way she resists.
On ne dira pas que les jeunes vont jouer au football sans ballon. C'est ça la résistance.
And they don't talk about how young people are going to play soccer even without a ball. But that's what resistance is.
Voilà. Et donc, l'homme, l'être humain n'est pas mis au centre de la résistance.
So the human being, man as a human being, is not usually put into the center of
On
resistance.
parlera plutôt des armées
You speak more about armies,
ou des
not an
drones,
individual.
voilà, qui combattent.
Or drones.
Mais les gens qui combattent au quotidien, on parle peu de ces gens-là.
But people who struggle and battle against it on a daily basis are not the focus.
C'est là où l'artiste se différencie aussi voilà, du reporter, disons.
And this is how the artist differentiates himself from the reporter.
Bon, je ne minimise pas le travail du reporter, hein, c'est pas ça,
Of course, I don't intend to minimize what reporters do,
mais c'est pas la même fonction.
but it's not the same function.
Et donc, pour moi, c'était très important de montrer que un djihadiste, par exemple, c'est quelqu'un comme nous. Et c'est ça la vérité.
I think what was important for me was to show that a jihadist is fundamentally someone just like us.
Et c'est peut-être ça le vrai danger aussi.
And maybe that's what the real danger is.
Et qu'il y a une humanité forcément dans chaque être humain.
That there is a humanity that exists in each human being.
Et quand il a perdu son humanité, il s'est passé quelque chose.
And when that person loses their humanity, something happens.
On ne doit pas ignorer ça.
You can't ignore that.
Voilà.
This is a very highly professional and accessible motion picture drama on a really important subject today. It's almost got a big studio look and feel to it. And in watching it, I was reminded of a number of early American films from the 1940s that were dedicated to exposing and communicating the dangers of the rise of Nazism, particularly in Europe. A picture, for example, like The Mortal Storm, in which a Hollywood actor, Robert Young, played a Nazi leader who was systematically dedicated to destroying human rights. My question is, were you aware of this American tradition? And if so, did that inform your aesthetic, informing your drama?
Non, je n'avais pas connaissance de cette tradition du cinéma américain.
No, I wasn't really aware of this this tradition in American film.
Mais bon, pour une raison déjà, mais c'est une parenthèse que j'ouvre, qui est que je ne suis pas cinéphile du tout. Donc.
But just as an aside, I'm not really a cinephile, so.
Mais je trouve que sa comparaison est très intéressante pour moi.
But I think that the comparison that you've just made is very, very interesting.
Voilà. Et qu'avant l'État, ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui État islamiste, qui en passant n'est ni État ni islamiste, il a existé bien avant.
And I think it's important to note that before the emergence of the Islamic State, which is neither Islamic nor a state, it existed even prior to its functional existence now.
Et donc, moi, je voulais dire effectivement que faisons attention, ne pensons pas que le danger est loin de nous. Aucun danger qui atteint l'humanité n'est loin, en fait. Aucun drame.
And I think what I wanted to do is to warn people, to tell them, pay attention. A danger that takes place far away is not really far away. It's something that affects all of us.
Et si le nazisme a triomphé, c'est parce qu'on n'a pas voulu le voir.
And if Nazism triumphed, at least for a time, it's because people just didn't want to see it.
Consciemment ou inconsciemment, on a laissé couver, c'est ça.
Consciously or unconsciously, we let it grow.
Après, tout d'un coup, on a dit « Ah, il y a Hitler, mais il était là avant. »
And then all of a sudden people said, oh, look, it's Hitler, when Hitler was there for some time before.
Donc, je suis absolument d'accord avec vous.
So I completely agree with you.
Very good film. I really enjoyed it. But I wanted to ask about the casting. Were they professionals, non-professionals, and the children actors particularly, and dealing with the languages such as French, Arabic, and Bambos, I believe that's Bambora. Was it difficult working with these actors with the different languages?
D'accord. Et pour le casting, comme vous savez peut-être, chez nous, il n'y a pas une industrie de cinéma, donc il n'y a pas des acteurs.
As far as the casting goes, as you may know, we don't really have a tradition of cinema in our country.
Il n'y a pas de théâtre où on va chercher les acteurs.
And there's no tradition of theater either where we can go to find actors.
Très peu, il en existe quand même.
Very few. There are some, but very few.
Donc le casting que nous faisons en général, c'est un casting de la rue, disons.
So the casting that we do is usually casting that's done with people we see in the street.
Mais je voulais que les acteurs parlent leur langue, donc le couple qui est Touareg, je voulais que ce soit des Touaregs.
But I wanted people to speak their own languages. So for example, the Tuareg couple, the people who played them had to be Tuareg.
Et donc Kidan, qui est le berger, est un musicien Touareg qui vit à Madrid.
And Kidan, who plays the husband, he is a Tuareg, he's a musician, and he lives in Madrid.
Et il n'a jamais joué dans un film, donc je n'ai pas fait de casting, j'ai vu sa photo et je l'ai téléphoné, donc il est venu.
And I saw his picture, I thought he would be a good choice. I called him, and he came from Madrid.
Et sa femme, donc Toulou Kiki dans le film, est une chanteuse Touareg du Niger.
And the Tula, who plays his wife in the film, is a singer, and she comes from Niger,
Et elle vit à Paris.
and she lives right now in Paris.
La vendeuse de poissons est une actrice malienne.
And the woman fish seller is an actress from Mali.
Et j'ai choisi beaucoup de figurants dans un camp de réfugiés Touareg en Mauritanie.
And I chose a lot of the background actors from a refugee camp, a Tuareg refugee camp.
Et quand je faisais ça, la petite fille Leila dans le film, donc Toya,
And when I was doing it, the little girl who plays the little girl in the film, Toya,
elle était toujours devant moi. Donc chaque fois quand j'allais sous une tente, elle se mettait devant moi.
she was always in front of me. Every time I would go into a tent there, she would be right in front of me
Pendant 2 jours.
for 2 days.
Et donc à la fin, quand je quittais le camp, et dans le scénario, c'était écrit, ils ont une fille de 3 ans.
So ultimately, when I left the camp, in the script, it's written they have a daughter who's 3 years old.
Et j'ai demandé à Toya quel âge tu as, elle a 12 ans.
So I asked Toya, how old are you? And she's 12.
Donc j'ai changé mon scénario. Donc,
So I changed my script.
voilà. Et parce que le cinéma, pour moi, c'est une question de désir, vraiment.
Because for me, cinema is really a question of desire.
Voilà. Et quand les gens ont une envie, il faut partager le désir, on peut faire des choses, même s'ils ne sont pas des acteurs professionnels.
And when people want to share that desire with you, even if they're not professional actors, it's good to let them do it.
Et pour la langue, Timbuktu est une ville très cosmopolite.
And as far as the language is concerned, Timbuktu is actually a very cosmopolitan
Il y a
city
plusieurs langues.
with several languages spoken.
Voilà. Donc pour moi, c'était important de montrer ça.
So it was important for me to show that.
et c'est cette ville ouverte, tolérante, qui était prise en otage.
And it's really this city which was so open and so tolerant, which has really been taken hostage.
C'est donc un symbole. Timbuktu est un symbole.
So Timbuktu is a symbol.
Hi, thank you for your film. I'm curious, in the scene where the group is singing at night, to know what the song the woman was singing. There were no subtitles, and I'm curious to know what the song was.
Oui. Effectivement, ce sont des moments où on se dit, est-ce qu'on sous-titre ou pas?
That was actually one of those moments where we had to ask, do we put in subtitles or not?
Et moi, j'ai décidé non,
And I decided not,
parce que c'était pour dire que c'est chanter qui était interdit.
because what was important wasn't what she was singing, but the fact that it was singing that was prohibited.
Voilà. Mais pour vous répondre à la question,
But to answer your question,
elle chante sur ce qui s'est passé à Tombouctou,
she's singing about what's happening in Timbuktu,
sur la violence,
about the violence,
sur le mariage forcé.
forced marriage.
C'est ça le chant.
That's what her song is about.
C'est une improvisation de Fatou Diawara, qui est une chanteuse malienne.
It's an improvisation of the singer who is a Malian singer.
Thank you.
Donc, pour aller dans le sens du casting, Fatou Diawara, qui est une chanteuse malienne, qui est une amie,
So, again, speaking about the casting, Fatou is a Malian singer, and she's also a friend of mine.
et elle m'a appelé un jour et m'a dit, je sais que tu fais un film important sur Timbuktu.
And she called me one day and she said, you know, I've heard that you're thinking of making an important film about Timbuktu.
Elle m'a dit, trouve-moi quelque chose, n'importe quoi, je viens. Voilà.
And she said, find something for me. I'm coming right away to be in it.
C'est ça.
In your film Bamako of 8 or 9 years ago, you put the World Bank and the IMF on trial, if I recall. And what I see in this film is dealing with a very deeply rooted subject in Western culture, going back to the Crusades, and something that is conjures up all sorts of imagery in people. And I was wondering if you could go into the kind of grappling with the script that you did, because you could have included the issue of the Timbuktu library being destroyed. I know that many of the documents were taken away, but there are choices one makes in presenting this, and also the question of presenting Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb in the way you did, with sort of uncertainty in the leaders and the soldiers, the Libyan sort of questioning or seeming doubtful to some extent about his role. Tell me a little bit more, or us more, about the grappling with the script and constructing it, and sort of the choices and things you wanted to include and not include in it.
Oui, un film, c'est toujours un choix de ne pas faire trop, je crois.
I think a film is always a choice, and it's always a choice of not doing too much.
Voilà. Et c'est vrai que la destruction des manuscrits était quelque chose de très important.
And it's true that the destruction of the manuscripts was something that was incredibly important.
Et cela représentait quelque chose dans la conscience occidentale. Voilà, beaucoup plus forte. Oui.
This really represented something very strong in Western consciousness.
Voilà. Des manuscrits anciens détruits.
Old manuscripts that have been destroyed.
Moi, j'ai fait le choix d'aller vers autre chose.
I chose to go in another direction.
Les masques, par exemple,
The masks, for example,
qui est l'atteinte à une culture. Voilà.
which is part of the culture.
Voilà. Mais surtout, aller vers l'humiliation quand quelqu'un est humilié parce qu'on lui impose telle ou telle chose.
What I wanted to move more towards was showing how this involves humiliation. People are humiliated and they're being asked to do things that make them humiliated and put them in humiliating positions.
Voilà. Je voulais éviter d'expliquer trop de choses.
I wanted to avoid explaining too many things.
Donc d'où ce choix, effectivement, d'aller vers peut-être l'émotion, vers ce que les femmes ont beaucoup plus enduré quelque part pour moi.
And this is really what's behind my moving in that direction of focusing more on emotion and also a lot on the women and what the women have to endure.
Voilà, c'est comme bon, Bamako aussi, vous avez cité le film Bamako, c'était... Moi j'ai mis... pour moi c'était beaucoup plus important de parler de la Banque mondiale et du FMI.
And it's something similar to what I did in Bamako, as you mentioned, because there I felt it was important to talk about the World Bank, but also to talk about the family and what the effect was.
Parce qu'on ne dit jamais que la Banque mondiale a mal fait. Donc, on dit
Because
jamais
nobody
ça.
ever says that the World Bank made a mistake.
Donc l'art peut dire ça. Le cinéma doit dire ça.
But in film, you can and you should say things like that.
Voilà. Et bien sûr que dans le problème de l'Afrique, la faute n'est pas seulement à la Banque mondiale ou au fonds.
And of course, in Africa, the cause of the problem is not just the World Bank.
Voilà. Mais j'ai fait ce choix.
But I made that particular choice.
Voilà. Mais comme vous avez vu le film, je crois, et en mettant tout ça dans la cour familiale pour humaniser le propos,
But you saw the film, and so you know that what I did was I reduced it into the scale of the courtyard with the family around it.
I'm wondering, if, Abderrahmane, if you could just illuminate one detail of your answer, which was in reference to the manuscripts, which you said had great significance for Western culture. So I'm wondering what the difference is between the importance that it was recorded there and here.
Oui, en disant ça, d'ailleurs, je me dis, est-ce qu'on va vraiment me comprendre quand je dis ça?
Actually, it's funny because while I was saying it, I was thinking, are they really going to understand what I mean when I say this?
Oui. Mais je pense que, comme la notion de la culture, l'oralité n'est pas prise en compte en Occident comme une richesse culturelle, parce qu'elle n'est pas saisissable.
I think it really has to do with the idea of culture and the fact that in Western culture, an oral culture is not really viewed as highly.
Voilà. Et moi, je viens d'une culture de l'oralité.
And I come from an oral culture.
Quand je suis rentré à l'école du cinéma pour apprendre le cinéma,
And when I went to film school to learn to make films,
j'avais peut-être lu 5 livres.
at that point, maybe in my life, I had read 5 books.
Mais j'avais eu une éducation différente qu'on prend et voilà, qui n'est pas l'écrit. Voilà.
But I had a different kind of education where I was able to, to obtain an education, but without it being written.
Voilà, c'est pourquoi je disais que les manuscrits, c'est quelque chose de matériel, donc il y a une sensibilité.
And that's why I mentioned the manuscripts, because they're a material object, and this is something that Westerners are more aware of.
C'est-à-dire quand on dit qu'un vieux livre a été brûlé et qu'il a 1000 ans, les gens sursautent.
It's if you say that an old book has just been burned and that book was 1,000 years old, people suddenly
Mais
stand
quand
up.
on dit un enfant est mort, il en meurt tous les jours.
But when you say a child died, people don't react because children die every day.
C'est un peu ça que je voulais dire.
À mon avis, la comparaison entre les djihadistes et les nazis est peut-être un peu facile parce que, à mon avis, la relation entre les djihadistes et Kidan, c'était plus similaire à... Il m'a rappelé plutôt de La Grande Illusion de Renoir, la relation entre Rauffenstein et les prisonniers français, parce qu'ici, il y avait un vrai rapport entre les Allemands et les Français. Les Allemands n'étaient pas seulement des personnifications du mal pur. Donc peut-être vous pouvez parler de cette comparaison.
I'm going to translate the question. This refers to the comparison of the jihadists with the Nazis. And I think that if you think about it, it's not exactly the right kind of comparison because in a film, say like Grand Illusion, you see that there's a kind of interaction between the German and the French that is cultural, that is something that goes on, that they're part of the same culture. Am I getting your question
Well, I
correctly?
think that he was also saying that the Grand Illusion offers a more apt comparison.
And perhaps
to the
it's a
films that
better
this gentleman
comparison
brought up
for
earlier.
this, yes.
Bien sûr, je pense qu'il ne faut pas... on peut dire que ce n'est pas comparable, bien sûr. Je partage la comparaison dans un certain sens, mais ce n'est pas pareil, bien sûr.
I think you can say that they're not comparable, but in a sense I do share that comparison because in a way they are.
Pour moi, quand il y a, par exemple, une fatwa qui dit « tuez-les tous », ce sont des mécréants, les Occidentaux, comme après la mort du Français, et Hervé Gourdel, qui a été tué récemment en Algérie, et que la fatwa c'était de tuez-les tous, les sales Français. Voilà. Je ne suis pas français, mais je me suis senti français sale aussi. C'est dans ce sens-là, lorsque l'ennemi est considéré de cette façon.
I think, let me give you an example. It's as if somebody issues a fatwa. I'm sure you've all heard recently of Hervé Gourdel, who was the French one who was murdered in Algeria. And the fatwa was issued, it was just kill them all, kill the filthy French. And I'm not French, but I identified as French at that moment.
C'est dans ce sens-là.
It's in this sense that I'm saying this.
Before we do the final question, everybody, we need to rush our director out here. So if you could please make sure that our pathway is clear, we appreciate it very much. And now Jim.
First, merci beaucoup for a beautiful, challenging film. I would like you to talk a little bit more about two things: the role of the trial, which was also in Bamako, and the role of women. We rarely see women in this context. It's so much a man's Muslim religious-based war. The madwoman, the witch, the role she played seemed to be untouchable by anyone. Could you talk about both the significance of trial and the significance of the madwoman?
Peut-être, même si je n'ai pas conscience qu'il y a un lien entre Bamako, le tribunal, et là, il doit y avoir un lien.
Even if I'm not really aware of a conscious link between the trial that takes place in Bamako and the trial here, there must be a connection.
C'est la notion de justice.
It's the idea of justice.
Quand l'homme juge l'autre aussi. Voilà.
And also when
Quelque
one
chose,
man
voilà.
judges another.
Et dans le cas de Timbuktu, pour moi, c'est le jugement expéditif. Voilà.
And this is expeditionary justice in the case of Bamako.
Mais le jugement qui permet à tout accusé de s'exprimer. Voilà.
But it's a judgment that allows all of those who are accused to express themselves.
Voilà. Et ça donne au cinéaste de s'exprimer, en fait.
And this gives the filmmaker the opportunity to express himself.
Voilà. Ça, c'est un moment pour moi qui m'intéresse. Voilà.
And this is a moment for me that really interests me.
Parce que le cinéma, c'est pas la parole. Mais je le rends parole, en fait.
Because cinema isn't words, but in this case, I'm giving it words.
Voilà. C'est ça. Et la deuxième question, c'était... Oui. Pour moi, dans toute société, la femme est plus forte que l'homme.
For me, in all societies, women are stronger than men.
Mais les hommes ne laissent pas voir ça. Donc.
But men don't let that be seen.
Ouais. Et c'est visible dans une situation de crise.
But it becomes visible in a crisis situation.
Voilà. Et dans cette situation, je montre les femmes plus fortes.
And in this situation, I'm showing the women as stronger.
Parce qu'elles ont une capacité de résistance plus courageuse, je pense.
Because they have a more courageous capacity for resistance.
L'exemple dans le film, c'est l'homme qui a un pantalon trop long et qui doit le rétrécir et qui décide de l'enlever pour faire plaisir et qui part avec son pantalon.
For me, the example in the film is the man who has the pants that are too long, and he's been asked to roll them up, and instead he just takes them off to please the police.
Et la femme se lève, elle dit, vous voulez couper des mains, voilà deux. Voilà.
And the woman who takes the gloves, throws them at the policeman and says, "Do you want to cut my hands off?"
Voilà. Et c'est ça, voilà, cette capacité d'affronter.
It's the ability that women have to confront.
Voilà. Et ça a été une histoire réelle à Timbuktu, de cette femme-là, vendeuse de poissons,
And this is based on a real person, this woman fish seller in Timbuktu.
qui a défié comme ça.
And she committed this act of defiance just like that.
Aucun homme n'a défié comme ça, parce que c'était une folie de défier comme ça.
And this was considered to be really crazy. Like, it's a crazy thing to do, to be defiant like that.
Et la femme a été capable de défier comme ça.
But she was able to do that. She was able to commit this defiant
Prête à
act.
mourir,
Ready to die,
parce qu'elle ne tue pas. Voilà. La femme ne tue pas,
because women don't kill,
de façon générale.
generally.
Donc il y a une vraie différence entre nous, entre les hommes et les femmes.
So there is a real difference between us, between men and women.
Thank you, Abderrahmane. Merci.